we need to find out where those niche markets are. And we need to balance that energy vision with regulatory reform that says, starting today, the regulatory agencies like the EPA and the Department of the Interior and the Army Corps of Engineers, they're going to become partners in progress with America's businesses and industries. If they've got a national security or a public health or a public safety reason for saying no, then say no. But don't let no be the final answer. Work with those industries to turn no's into yes. Because the American people have an expectation that elected officials and the agencies that are put in Washington to move America forward are there as partners, not as barriers. If we had been as risk averse in the late 1800s and the 1900s as we are today, we would have never driven a car, we would have never flown an airplane, and we certainly would not have gone to the moon in 7 years. Any time that America has undertaken a big challenge, it's been with risk. There is a risk in every major move of life. It's a risk to get in your car and go to work every day. It's a risk to get married. Some of us know that. It's a risk to get on an airplane. But there's a reward that comes with that, and we learn to balance that. That's what we need Washington to do. We need Washington to put the American people first, not their own jobs, not their own paychecks. That's what we need. Well, today we're fortunate. All of you know who this gentleman is that I'm about to introduce to you. Before we open it up for questions, I am just tickled that Damian Lang from Lang Masonry, and it would take me the rest of our time here tonight to tell you all the things that he has done. He's an entrepreneur. He's an inventor. He's an innovator. He's a father. He's a husband. And he loves this country just like I do. And he's going to talk to us a little bit about job creation from his perspective. Damian, come and share with us.
Thank you, Congressman. I appreciate you and your staff having me out tonight. And well, thank you for your service to the country, not just as a congressman, but your 26 years in the military. It's important to, I think, all of us. They asked me to talk a little bit about what we're dealing with in our companies and stuff. And I have about 100 employees right now. We had as many as 200 employees when things were good. Run 4 different companies, have 3 construction companies, and then I invented some machine that puts concrete block walls, and then a lot of other machines for the construction industry, and we sell them now in every state in the United States and several foreign countries. And so some of the things we face is mostly is a lot of what Congressman's talking about is the regulations, the other regulations. And I'm going to talk about a couple of them that if they were in place, if they were in place back when I started business, I wouldn't be here tonight. I wouldn't, and certainly wouldn't be here where we were today. I read a couple, I read a lot, and I study it a lot. Of course, if I don't follow the regulations, I don't know what to do next anyway. It's because we got a plan for them. And we hire extra secretaries just to do paperwork, the bureaucracy we have to go through. But, and there's a new bill that come out that's really irked me, that the new farm bill, where it keeps children under 18 years old, they have to be paid minimum wage after so many days of employment. And any of them under 16 years old, you can't work on a farm if you're around farm machinery, or on a hay wagon, or around certain animals, or around certain grains. So that tells me they can't even work on a farm. And you can't go help the neighbor if the neighbor lady wants to hire you to paint the fence, or stack wood, or pull weeds in the garden. You can't do it without getting minimum wage. I got to tell you, people think that I just become an entrepreneur and started hiring people all of a sudden a few years ago when I started my second or third business. But I got to tell you, when I started was when I was 9 years old. Mom and Dad give me a chance. They put me to work for Storage Farm Market. First day I worked, I brought home a check for $9, $1 per hour. I was bragging to Mom about it, and Mom said, "Let me see that check." And I was hoping she'd come tonight because I was going to pick on her. I thought we were going to scare her off. She heard I might talk about that. But anyway, so she takes my check. She took it back to Mike's store at Storage Farm Market, and now it's Arrowhead Pines Golf Course. Took it back to Mike's store and said, "You're paying my boy too much money. Pay him 75 cents an hour and rewrite his check." I wasn't very happy about it. So I got a check for $6.75 instead of $9. Mike wasn't sure. I didn't think he was going to keep me on board, right? So I wasn't going to get a work that year. But because he could afford to pay me at 75 cents an hour, he kept me busy. And I worked all the way through school. And that's where I started. By the time I was 13 years old, Mike had me running the truck farm. And I had 5 or 6 of his employees. He went to work somewhere else. So it was that opportunity that I got as a young child to do something. And today we can't do that because they're restricting us. So we got to keep the governments out of our business. That was free trade back then. And I'll tell you a little bit about the health care law. And I'm going to tell you what it's going to do to, it's going to our company now, and I'm going to tell you what it's going to do in the future, or what we believe. But first I want to tell you what I believe it's going to do to the American people. It's anytime there is a big health care problem, but anytime you take something and give something to somebody without any effort or any reason at all, there's got to be a reason. It's got to be tied to something. That it'll do more harm to that person than good. And I'll tell you a personal story that to relate to this. Back years ago, when my kids were real small, Dawn and I used to take them to Canaan Valley in the summertime. And we always stopped at North Bend State Park there on State Route 50 between Parkersburg and Clarksburg. We wanted to feed the deer. The kids loved them. They'd eat right out of your hands, right? Well, the government had this sign up when we'd entered the park that said, "Please do not feed the deer." I couldn't figure out why, because it seemed like a nice thing to do for the deer, right? So we'd drive back in there and there'd be rows of cars, and there'd be lines of deer. The deer would be lined up sideways, all eating right out of the windows, eating out of our hands. The kids just loved it. The deer were happy and we were too. Well, one winter, we decided on the way back from snow skiing to stop at North Bend State Park and feed the deer. When we drove back in there, there was that sign, "Please do not feed the deer." I figured out why when I got back in there, because there wasn't any vehicles, nobody feeding the deer. But the deer were still in rows, waiting to be fed. Now some of these deer, you can see every bone in their body, virtually. This is January, right? The feeders are not going to be back till March, or probably April, May. And it was obvious that most of these deer were going to crawl off in the woods and die somewhere, because they had forgotten how to survive on their own, how to make it themselves, because it was a complete handout.